She wasn't just a killer. She was a wife, a mother, a neighbour. And behind the doors of 25 Cromwell Street, she was something far darker. This is her crime. In the quiet English city of Gloucester, there was nothing remarkable about 25 Cromwell Street from the outside. A terraced house, net curtains, children playing in the yard. But beneath that house, buried under concrete, lay the remains of young women whose names the world would not know for decades. Rose West was born Rosemary Letts in 1953 in Devon, England. Her childhood was fractured from the beginning. Her father, Bill Letts, was a deeply controlling man who subjected his family to severe physical and psychological abuse. Her mother suffered from depression and underwent electroconvulsive therapy while pregnant with Rose. From the very beginning, Rose entered the world in darkness. By the time she was a teenager, Rose was already showing signs of the manipulation and sexual deviance that would define her adult life. At 15, she began a relationship with Fred West, a man 10 years her senior with a criminal record and a taste for violence. Her father disapproved. It made no difference. Rose was already under Fred's influence, and she would remain there for the next 2 decades. Fred West was not Rose's introduction to darkness, but he was her accelerant. Fred already had a young daughter named Charmaine from his first wife, Rena Costello. When Fred was briefly imprisoned in 1980, Rose was left alone to care for Charmaine and their own infant daughter, Anne-Marie. Charmaine was 8 years old. She never made it to 9. Rose ended her life while Fred was behind bars. When Fred returned, he buried Charmaine's remains under the kitchen floor of their home in Midland Road. He told people the child had gone to live with her mother. Nobody questioned it. In 1972, Fred and Rose married. They moved to 25 Cromwell Street. And the house that would become one of Britain's most notorious addresses quietly opened its doors. What happened inside Cromwell Street defies easy description. Fred and Rose West operated together as predators. They targeted vulnerable young women, runaways, hitchhikers, girls in care, lodgers who needed a room. They lured them in with offers of accommodation and safety. What followed was prolonged imprisonment, abuse, and ultimately death. Rose was not a passive participant. Investigators and survivors would later describe her as an active and enthusiastic perpetrator. She was present. She was willing. She was in some cases the initial contact, the friendly face that made young women feel safe enough to follow her inside. Between 1973 and 1987, at least 9 young women were murdered at or connected to 25 Cromwell Street. Their remains were discovered buried in the cellar, under the bathroom floor, and in the garden. Fred West had turned their family home into a graveyard. The victims were young. The youngest was only 15. They came from broken homes, care systems, and difficult circumstances, precisely the kind of girls that society was least likely to go looking for. That was not a coincidence. That was a selection strategy. Among the victims was Fred's own daughter from his first marriage, Anne-Marie's half-sister, Heather West. Heather was 17 years old when she disappeared in 1987. For years, Fred and Rose told their other children that Heather had simply left home. There was even a dark family joke that if you misbehaved, you would end up under the patio like Heather. The children laughed because they did not know it was true. It was a tip about the abuse of Rose and Fred's own children that finally broke the case open. In 1992, a young girl disclosed what had been happening inside Cromwell Street to a friend. That disclosure made its way to police. In August 1992, officers raided the house and removed the West children from the home. Fred and Rose were charged with rape and serious sexual assault, but the charges collapsed when key witnesses withdrew. Fred and Rose walked free. They would not walk free for long. In 1994, police received new information about Heather West. Officers returned to Cromwell Street with excavation equipment. On the 24th of February 1994, They found her remains exactly where the family joke had always pointed, under the garden patio. Fred West was arrested. He began to confess, slowly, strategically, always trying to protect Rose. He admitted to killing 12 people. He claimed Rose knew nothing. Investigators did not believe him. Rose West was arrested in April 1994. She has maintained her innocence from that day to this. Fred West never faced trial. On the 1st of January 1995, he took his own life in his prison cell at Winson Green. He left Rose to face the jury alone. The trial of Rose West began in October 1995 at Winchester Crown Court. It was one of the most significant criminal trials in British history. The prosecution argued that the crimes at Cromwell Street could not have happened without Rose's full knowledge and active participation. Survivor testimony was devastating. Former lodgers described what they had witnessed and experienced inside that house. The picture that emerged was of a woman who was not a victim of Fred West, but his equal partner in every act of depravity that took place under their roof. On the 22nd of November 1995, Rose West was found guilty of 10 counts of murder. The judge told her that in his view, she would never be safe to release. She was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life tariff, meaning she will die in prison. 25 Cromwell Street was demolished in 1996. The site is now a public footpath. There is no marker, no memorial, just a path that people walk down every day without knowing what the ground beneath it once held. Rose West maintains her innocence to this day. She has never spoken publicly about the crimes. She has never shown remorse. She has never acknowledged the names of the women whose lives ended inside her home. But those names exist, and they deserve to be spoken.